The Saw franchise. Just mentioning the name sends shivers down your spine. It's a name synonymous with horror, suspense, and gruesome games of life and death. But where did this legacy of fear begin? How did a film about a mysterious figure named Jigsaw, who traps his victims in twisted games, capture the attention of the world? Our journey into the dark heart of Saw begins in 2004. The very first film, simply titled Saw, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, immediately grabbing the attention of horror fans and critics alike. Directed by James Wan and written by Leigh Whannell, the film was a masterclass in suspense, utilizing a low budget to deliver high-impact scares. Starring Cary Elwes as Dr. Lawrence Gordon and Leigh Whannell himself as Adam Stanheight, Saw thrust audiences into a terrifying game of survival. Two strangers awaken in a dilapidated bathroom, chained to pipes with no memory of how they got there. As the clock ticks down, they must decipher cryptic clues and play Jigsaw's deadly game if they want to escape with their lives. The film's brilliance lies in its simplicity. The setting is claustrophobic, the characters desperate, and the tension palpable. Each passing moment ratchets up the terror, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats. Saw wasn't just about gore, though. It delved into complex themes of morality, choice, and the value of life. Jigsaw, the enigmatic antagonist, doesn't see himself as a murderer. He believes he's a teacher, forcing his victims to confront their own mortality and appreciate their lives. The movie's ending, a shocking twist that left audiences reeling, cemented its place in horror history. It wasn't just a horror film, it was a puzzle box of its own, leaving viewers to piece together clues and question everything they thought they knew. Saw was a sleeper hit, terrifying audiences worldwide and spawning a franchise that would continue to push the boundaries of horror. But the story behind Saw, the inspiration that birthed this terrifying world, is just as compelling as the films themselves. Saw became a word-of-mouth phenomenon. Audiences hungry for something different in the horror genre flocked to theaters. The film's low budget, far from being a detriment, became a badge of honor. It proved that terror didn't need expensive special effects to be effective. The real horror came from the characters, the twisted games, and the unbearable tension. Critics, while divided on the film's graphic violence, praised its ingenuity and suspense. It was a film that stayed with you long after the credits rolled. The image of Jigsaw's puppet, Billy, riding a tricycle, was seared into the minds of moviegoers. It became an instant icon of horror. Word spread like wildfire. Saw wasn't just a movie, it was an experience. It was something to be discussed, debated, and dissected. Fans couldn't get enough. They craved more of Jigsaw's twisted games, more of the intricate traps, and more of the moral dilemmas that the characters faced. The success of the Saw films went beyond the big screen. The franchise quickly expanded into other media, captivating audiences across different platforms. Comic books delved deeper into the Saw universe, exploring the backstories of Jigsaw's victims and expanding on the mythology of the series. Video games, both console and mobile, put players in the shoes of Jigsaw's victims. They were forced to make impossible choices, solve deadly puzzles, and confront their own mortality. The games were a hit, allowing fans to experience the horror firsthand. Saw had become a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just a movie franchise, it was an immersive experience that spread its tendrils into every corner of pop culture. Every horror story, no matter how outlandish or extreme, finds its roots in reality. The Saw franchise, with its intricate traps and morally ambiguous games, is no exception. The seeds of inspiration for this terrifying world were sown not in a Hollywood studio, but in the mundane experiences of its creators, James Wan and Leigh Whannell. While the duo never intended to recreate a specific real-life event, they drew upon everyday anxieties and fears, amplifying them to create the visceral horror that defines Saw. The claustrophobia of being trapped, the desperation to survive, and the fear of the unknown, these are universal experiences that resonate deeply with audiences. One of the most striking aspects of Saw is its focus on games. Jigsaw, the mastermind behind the gruesome trials, doesn't see himself as a murderer, but as a teacher. He believes his victims have strayed from a righteous path, and his games, however twisted, are designed to force them to confront their mistakes and appreciate the gift of life. The genesis of Jigsaw, the enigmatic and terrifying antagonist of the Saw franchise, can be traced back to a real-life medical diagnosis that profoundly impacted one of the film's creators, Leigh Whannell. Diagnosed with a benign brain tumor, Whannell found himself grappling with his own mortality, his thoughts consumed by the fragility of life. This brush with a potentially life-altering condition sparked an idea. What if there was someone who could force people to appreciate their lives, to make them confront their own mortality? This question, born from a place of personal anxiety, became the foundation for Jigsaw's twisted philosophy. Whannell envisioned a character who believed he was doing a perverse form of good, someone who saw himself as a shepherd guiding lost souls back to the path of righteousness, even if it meant subjecting them to unimaginable horrors. This concept, both terrifying and strangely compelling, resonated with James Wan, and together they began to flesh out the story that would become Saw. The setting for the first Saw film, a dilapidated, grimy bathroom, was also inspired by a real-life experience. Whannell, during his time undergoing medical tests, found himself spending hours in sterile, impersonal waiting rooms and examination rooms. These cold, clinical spaces, often associated with vulnerability and fear of the unknown, left a lasting impression. This experience, coupled with Wan's fascination with claustrophobic settings and gritty realism, led to the decision to set the first Saw film in that now iconic bathroom. The room itself becomes a character, a reflection of the victim's confinement and desperation. The use of practical effects rather than relying heavily on CGI further enhanced the film's realism, making the traps and the violence feel all the more visceral and disturbingly tangible. The Saw franchise, from its inception, grounded itself in a sense of gritty authenticity, blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Beyond specific inspirations, the Saw franchise taps into broader societal anxieties. The early 2000s, following the events of 9/11, saw a surge in feelings of vulnerability and uncertainty. People grappled with the randomness of violence and the fragility of life. Saw, with its themes of survival, morality, and the consequences of one's actions, reflected these anxieties back at the audience. The franchise's success can be partly attributed to its ability to tap into these primal fears. The films, while undeniably gruesome, also offered a twisted form of catharsis. Audiences, bombarded with images of real-life violence and uncertainty, could experience these horrors in a safe, fictionalized setting. The Saw films, with their intricate traps and moral dilemmas, forced viewers to confront uncomfortable questions about their own values and what they would do to survive. This exploration of the darker aspects of human nature, while controversial, resonated with audiences, solidifying Saw's place as a cultural phenomenon. The Saw franchise, despite its gruesome imagery and often nihilistic themes, left an indelible mark on popular culture. It wasn't just the gore that captivated audiences, it was the underlying message, however twisted, about appreciating life and making the right choices. Jigsaw's games, designed to test the limits of human will and morality, sparked countless debates and discussions. The franchise's influence seeped into everyday conversations. People found themselves asking, "What would you do in a Saw trap?" These hypothetical scenarios, often debated with a mix of morbid fascination and genuine curiosity, highlighted the series' ability to worm its way into the public consciousness. The films sparked discussions about ethics, morality, and the nature of good and evil. Jigsaw, despite being a ruthless killer, presented a moral conundrum. Was he a monster for inflicting such horrors, or was there a twisted logic to his methods? These questions lingered long after the credits rolled, sparking debates in classrooms, online forums, and living rooms. The influence of Saw extended far beyond Halloween costumes and philosophical debates. The franchise's impact could be felt in the realm of art, music, and even fashion. The series' distinctive aesthetic, a blend of industrial grime and stark violence, resonated with artists seeking to explore the darker aspects of human nature. Dark ambient and industrial music artists found inspiration in the series' haunting scores and sound design. The use of dissonant melodies, jarring sound effects, and eerie silences, techniques often employed in the films to heighten tension, found their way into the work of musicians seeking to evoke similar feelings of unease and dread. Even the world of fashion wasn't immune to the allure of Saw. Independent designers, inspired by the series' gritty aesthetic, incorporated elements of industrial design, distressed fabrics, and even imagery from the films into their collections, creating a unique and edgy style. Jigsaw, the enigmatic and terrifying antagonist of the Saw franchise, has transcended his status as a mere movie monster to become a pop culture icon. His pale, gaunt face, often obscured by the unsettling spiral-painted mask, has become instantly recognizable, a symbol of both horror and morbid fascination. Jigsaw's likeness has been immortalized in countless forms, from action figures capturing his wiry frame clad in his signature black suit, to high-end statues depicting him in various poses of contemplation and menace. Fans can even find plush toys of Jigsaw, a somewhat ironic and oddly endearing take on the character, proving that even the most terrifying figures can be softened by the world of merchandise. But Jigsaw's impact goes beyond mere merchandise. His chilling pronouncements, often delivered through distorted speakers or the chilling rasp of Tobin Bell's voice, have become part of the horror lexicon. Phrases like "game over" and "I want to play a game" have taken on a life of their own, instantly recognizable by fans and often imitated, albeit with a hint of dark humor. What is it about Saw that continues to captivate audiences even after 2 decades? The franchise, despite its often excessive gore and bleak outlook on humanity, tapped into something primal, a collective fascination with the macabre and the limits of human endurance. Perhaps it's the puzzle box nature of the films, the way they challenge viewers to decipher clues and anticipate twists, that keeps audiences coming back for more. Or maybe it's the moral ambiguity of Jigsaw himself, a character who, despite his horrific methods, believes he's offering his victims a chance at redemption. Whatever the reason, the Saw franchise has cemented its place in the annals of horror cinema. It's a series that continues to be discussed, debated, and dissected. Its influence felt in countless other films, TV shows, and even video games. The legacy of Saw, like the intricate traps at the heart of its narrative, is complex, multifaceted, and impossible to disentangle. The Saw franchise, like a blood-stained jigsaw piece, fits into a larger puzzle of horror cinema history. It reflects the anxieties of its time, the fascination with torture porn that gripped the early 2000s, while also offering a twisted commentary on morality and the value of life. Its legacy is a complicated one. While some dismiss it as gratuitous gore-fest, others recognize its influence on the genre, its willingness to push boundaries and challenge audiences. Saw sparked countless imitators, some successful, others forgettable, but none able to fully replicate the chilling simplicity of Jigsaw's games. As the franchise continues to evolve with new installments and reboots, its place in the horror pantheon remains secure. The image of Billy the Puppet, tricycle gliding across the floor, a chilling grin on his painted face, will forever be etched in the minds of horror fans, and the echoes of Jigsaw's chilling words, "game over," will continue to haunt our nightmares. A reminder that even in the darkest corners of fiction, there are lessons to be learned, albeit at a terrible price. Thank you for joining me on the look into the story behind the story of the Saw franchise. What are your thoughts on Saw? Please leave a comment below, and if you enjoyed this video, want to see more of the same, please like and subscribe.